The kitchen smelled like fresh herbs and cooking oil. Tejo moved quickly between the stove and the counter, his hands working without thinking. He had cooked these dishes 1,000 times before. The restaurant was full tonight, just like every other night. Aliens from different planets sat at tables, eating food that reminded him of home or trying something new. Tejo was a human chef on Haven's Rest, a big space station where many species lived together. His restaurant was small, but popular. He cooked fusion food, mixing recipes from Earth with ingredients from other worlds. Some days he made Korean stew with vegetables from the planet Dalmar. Other days he grilled meat from Earth cattle raised in the station's farms, serving it with sauce made from Tuluvian peppers. Tonight was busy. Jaiwin, his young assistant, rushed back and forth carrying plates to customers. She was 23 years old and had worked with Tejo for 2 years. She moved fast, balancing 3 plates at once without spilling anything. Table 7 wants extra spice, Jaiwin called out as she pushed through the kitchen door. Tejo nodded and added more pepper to pan. The oil sizzled and popped. Steam rose to the ceiling. He plated the dish carefully, making it look good before sending it out. Food had to taste good and look good. His mother taught him that. The evening rush continued for another hour. Customers came and went. Teo's hands moved automatically, chopping, stirring, tasting, and plating. This was his life now. After his mother died 5 years ago, he left Earth and came to the station. Cooking helped him deal with the sadness. When he cooked, he felt close to her again. Finally, the last customer paid and left. Jaiwin started cleaning tables, while Tejo began washing dishes in the back. His arms were tired, but it was good tired, the kind that came from honest work. That's when he heard it, a soft scratching sound at the back door. Tejo stopped and listened. The scratching came again, gentle but persistent. Maybe a cleaning robot was stuck, he thought. He dried his hands and walked to the door. When he opened it, he expected to see machinery. Instead, he found something completely different. A small creature stood in the alley. It was a dragon, but not like the huge monsters from Earth Stories. This dragon was tiny, no bigger than a cat. Its scales were blue and green, shimmering in the dim light of the alley. 2 small wings folded against its back. Large eyes, almost too big for its head, looked up at Tejo. Those eyes were wet with tears. The little dragon held a woven basket in its front claws. The basket was almost as big as the dragon itself. Inside were vegetables. Strange vegetables that Tejo had never seen before. Some were purple with yellow spots. Others were long and twisted like strange roots. Tejo stared. He had seen many aliens on the station, but never a dragon like this. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the dragon spoke. Its voice was small and shaky. "Please." The word came out broken, like the dragon was still learning to speak. Tejo knelt down slowly, bringing himself closer to the creature's level. He didn't want to scare it. "Please," the dragon said again. "Mother sick." The dragon's scales flickered with dark colors. Tejo didn't know much about dragon body language, but he understood sadness when he saw it. This little creature was desperate. Need human cook. The dragon pushed the basket forward with its snout. Tejo looked at the vegetables again, then back at the dragon. His mind raced with questions. Why did this dragon need a human cook? What was wrong with its mother? Where did it come from? "Jaiwin," he called over his shoulder. "Come here." Jaiwin appeared in the doorway, holding a wet cloth. When she saw the dragon, her eyes went wide. "What is that?" "I'm not sure," Tejo said. He looked at the dragon again. "What's your name?" "Pip," the dragon answered. "Name is Pip." "Okay, Pip. My name is Tejo. Can you tell me what's wrong with your mother?" Pip's scales turned darker, almost black with worry. The dragon struggled to find words. "Mother, not eat. Many days. Elders say, only human cooking. Has life essence. Can help." Life essence? Tejo didn't understand what that meant. But he understood that this small dragon had come to him for help. That took courage. "Where is your mother?" Tejo asked. Pip pointed with one claw toward the deeper sections of the station. "Come, please." Jaiwin stepped forward. "Tejo, You can't just go with some unknown creature into the station. We don't know anything about these dragons. What if it's dangerous? What if there's some kind of disease? Teho stood up slowly. Jaiwin was right to be careful. The station had rules about contact with unknown species for good reasons. But when he looked at Pip again, he saw something that made him decide. The little dragon was shaking, not from cold, but from fear and worry. Its wings drooped. Its tail dragged on the ground. This was a child who was scared for its mother. 5 years ago, Teho's mother got sick. He remembered how helpless he felt, watching her in the hospital bed. He remembered begging doctors to do something, anything. He understood what Pip was feeling right now. "I'm going," Teho said. He started untying his apron. "Teho," Jaiwin started to protest. "You don't have to come," Teho interrupted gently. "Lock up the restaurant when you're done cleaning. I'll be back later." Jaiwin looked at him for a long moment. Then she sighed and grabbed her jacket from the hook. "If you're going, I'm going. Someone needs to make sure you don't do something stupid." Teho smiled. Jaiwin complained a lot, but she always had his back. Pip's scales brightened a little, shifting from black to dark blue. "Hope, maybe." The dragon picked up the basket handle in its teeth and started walking into the alley. Teho and Jaiwin followed. They left the bright, busy area of the station and entered the darker passages. These corridors were older, built when the station first opened decades ago. Not many people came here anymore. The lights flickered sometimes. The walls needed paint. Pip moved quickly despite the heavy basket. The dragon knew these passages well. They walked for 15 minutes, going deeper into areas Teho had never seen. The station was huge, with sections he didn't know existed. Finally, Pip stopped in front of a large door. The dragon scratched at it with one claw, a pattern like a code. The door opened. An older dragon, bigger than Pip, but still smaller than a human, stood in the doorway. This dragon's scales were gray and silver. When it saw Teho and Jaiwin, its eyes widened. "Pip brought humans," the older dragon said in much better standard Galactic than Pip. "Come." Quickly, they stepped through the door into another world. The room beyond was warm and filled with soft light. More dragons moved around, their scales showing different colors. Some were working on what looked like art projects. Others were tending to small plants growing in containers. This was a hidden community. Teho realized these dragons had been living here, in secret, in the forgotten parts of the station. Pip tugged on Teho's pants leg with a claw. "Mother, this way." The little dragon led them through the community. Other dragons stopped what they were doing to watch the humans pass. Their scales flickered with curiosity and concern. They reached a small dwelling carved into the wall. Pip pushed aside a curtain and went inside. Teho and Jaiwin followed, ducking through the low entrance. Inside, lying on a nest of soft materials, was a dragon about the size of a large dog. Her scales, which should have been bright and colorful like Pip's, were dull gray. She barely moved when they entered. Her breathing was shallow. This was Sarah, Pip's mother, and she was dying. Teho knelt beside the nest where Sarah lay. Up close, he could see how sick she really was. Her scales looked dry and cracked. Her eyes were closed. Each breath seemed to take great effort. Pip pressed close to her mother's side, making small, worried sounds. The older dragon who had opened the door entered the dwelling. He moved carefully, his silver scales catching the soft light. "I am Dae-hoon," he said. "I am the elder of our colony. Thank you for coming, human. My name is Teho. This is Jaiwin." Teho gestured to his assistant, who stood near the entrance looking nervous. "Can you tell me what's wrong with her?" Dae-hoon sat down slowly, his tail curling around his feet. "Our story is long. We are Soli. We came to this station 3 years ago as refugees. Our home world was dying. The sun grew too hot. Plants stopped growing. We had no choice but to leave." Pip nuzzled her mother's neck. Sarah's eyes opened slightly, but she seemed too weak to focus on anything. "When we arrived at Haven's Rest, the station gave us a space," Dae-hoon continued. "They gave us food synthesizers. They gave us water and shelter. We were grateful, but something was wrong. The The food from the synthesizers filled our stomachs, but it did not truly feed us. Jaiwan spoke up. What do you mean? The synthesizers create nutritionally complete meals. They're used all over the station. Yes, Daehoon agreed. For most species, they work fine. But we Soli are different. We do not just eat with our mouths. We eat with our whole being. The elder dragon touched his chest. We need what we call essence bonds with our food. Taeho frowned. Essence bonds. Daehoon's scales flickered with colors that Taeho couldn't interpret. On our world, plants grew in harmony with us. When we ate them, we felt connected to the life that created them. The sunshine that fed the plants. The soil that held their roots. The rain that watered them. We felt all of it. That connection is as important as vitamins or proteins. Like spiritual food, Taeho said slowly, beginning to understand. Yes, exactly. Daehoon looked relieved that Taeho was listening. The synthesizer food has no spirit, no connection. It keeps us alive, but we grow weak. We become sad. Some of us, like Sarah, eventually stopped eating entirely. Sarah made a small sound. Pip's scales turned bright yellow with distress. The little dragon looked at Taeho with desperate eyes. Our people have old stories, Daehoon continued. Stories passed down for generations. They speak of a species that cooks with essence bonds, a species that puts emotion and care into their food. When we came to this station and met humans, I studied your cooking. I watched from a distance, and I realized our old story spoke of you. Taeho felt the weight of that statement. You think human cooking can help her? I believe it can. Human chefs do not just combine ingredients. You cook with memory, with love, with intention. That is what creates essence bonds. That is what Sarah needs. Daehoon looked at the vegetables in Pip's basket. We managed to grow some of our native plants in the station's hydroponics bay. They are not as strong as the plant from our world, but they still carry some essence. If you could cook them with human care. Mother might eat, Pip finished, her voice breaking. Jaiwan pulled Taeho aside, speaking quietly. This sounds like some kind of psychosomatic issue. Maybe we should get them proper medical help instead. The station doctors have already seen her, Daehoon said. He had good hearing. They found nothing physically wrong. They said it was in her mind, but it is not. It is in her spirit. Taeho looked at Sarah again. She reminded him of his own mother in those final days, when she lost the will to eat, when nothing the doctors did seemed to help. He remembered sitting by her hospital bed, wishing he could do something, anything. I'll try, Taeho said. I can't promise it will work, but I'll try. Pip's scales burst into bright colors, blues and greens and yellows mixing together. The little dragon jumped up and down. Thank you. Thank you. Daehoon bowed his head. We are grateful. I need to take these vegetables back to my kitchen, Taeho said. I need to study them, figure out the best way to prepare them. I will send others to help carry supplies. Daehoon offered. Is there anything else you need? Taeho thought for a moment. Tell me about Sarah. What kind of person is she? What does she love? Daehoon's scales softened to gentle colors. Sarah is an artist. She creates crystal sculptures, beautiful pieces that catch light and throw rainbows. She has not worked since she became ill, but her art fills this colony. She is kind, patient. She loves her daughter more than anything in the universe. Pip nodded vigorously. Mother makes pretty things. She sings too. She taught me colors. Colors? Taeho asked. Pip's scales shifted through different shades. This is happy, she said, turning bright yellow. This is sad. She changed to dark blue. This is scared. Black crept across her scales. We talk with colors and words. Taeho watched the display, fascinated. That's beautiful. Mother does it best, Pip said proudly. She can make her whole body look like sunset, orange and pink and purple all at once. This gave Taeho ideas. He was beginning to understand how to approach this dish. It wasn't just about nutrition. It was about creating something beautiful, something that spoke to an artist's soul. I should go back to the kitchen, Taeho said. The sooner I start working, the sooner I can bring something back. Two more Soli appeared, younger ones with bright green scales. They carefully took the basket of vegetables from Pip. Daehoon gave them instructions in a language Taeho didn't understand. A series of chirps and whistles mixed with scale color changes. Jaiwin pulled up her datapad. I'm going to research Soli biology while you cook. Maybe I can find something useful. Good idea, Taeho agreed. Pip walked with them to the door of the colony. You will come back? The little dragon asked, scales flickering with worry. Taeho knelt down and looked Pip in the eyes. I promise. I'm going to make the best dish I can. For your mother. Pip touched Taeho's hand with her snout. It was warm, like touching sun-heated stone. Mother will like you. When she is better, she will like you very much. The walk back through the corridors felt different. Taeho's mind was already working through recipes. The two young Soli carrying the basket walked silently beside them, their scales neutral gray. Jaiwin was quiet until they reached the main corridors where other people walked. Then she spoke softly. Taeho, what if it doesn't work? What if you make this food and she still won't eat? Then at least we tried. Taeho said, that's all we can do. You really believe in this essence bond thing? Taeho thought about that. I believe that food is more than fuel. My mother taught me that. When she cooked, she put love into every dish. I could taste it. Maybe that's what essence bonds are. Maybe the Soli just have a name for something humans feel, but don't talk about. They reached the restaurant. It was dark and quiet now. Taeho unlocked the door and turned on the lights. The two Soli carriers placed a basket on his prep counter carefully, then left without saying anything. Taeho washed his hands and approached the vegetables. He picked up each one, examining it closely. They were strange but beautiful. One had leaves that shimmered like silk. Another had roots that twisted in perfect spirals. All of them smelled faintly of something sweet and earthy. Jaiwin set up her datapad on the counter, scrolling through information. Soli have taste receptors in their mouths and in their scales. They process flavor through multiple senses at once. Body temperature affects how they taste things. They prefer warm food. Soup, then, Taeho muttered. Something that stays warm, releases aroma, has complex layers of flavor. He thought of his mother's soup, the one she made when he was sick as a child. Simple ingredients, but made with such care. He could still remember the taste. The warmth, the feeling of being loved. That was what he needed to recreate. Not the exact recipe, but that feeling, that essence. Taeho rolled up his sleeves and began to work. Taeho stood at his prep counter, staring at the strange vegetables. The kitchen was quiet except for the hum of the refrigeration units. It was past midnight now. Most of the station was asleep, but his mind was fully awake. He picked up one of the vegetables and smelled it. Sweet, earthy, with hints of something like mint. He carefully cut a small piece and tasted it. The flavor was delicate, almost floral. It dissolved on his tongue quickly, leaving a pleasant warmth. Jaiwin looked up from her datapad. According to this medical report, 3 other Soli have died in the past year from the same condition. They call it essence deprivation syndrome. The doctors couldn't do anything because there was nothing physically wrong. That's sad, Taeho said quietly. He set down his knife. These dragons are dying from loneliness, basically, from being disconnected from everything they knew. The report says their emotions affect their physical health directly. When they're happy, their scales are bright and they're strong. When they're depressed, they get physically weaker. Jaiwin scrolled through more data. It's like their feelings and their bodies are completely linked. Taeho nodded slowly. This made sense of what Daehoon had told him. The Soli didn't just feel emotions. They experienced them through their entire bodies. Food wasn't just taste for them. It was a whole experience that included emotion and connection. I need to make something that tells a story, Taeho said. Something that carries feeling. He began washing the vegetables carefully. Each one was precious. Pip's people had grown these with care, probably using limited resources. He couldn't waste any of it. As he worked, Taeho thought about his mother. She had died 5 years ago from cancer. The last month was the hardest. She was in pain, exhausted from treatments, but she still tried to cook for him when she had energy. Even from her hospital bed, She would tell him recipes over the phone, making sure he was eating well. That was love. That was putting care into food, even when you had nothing left to give. The memory made his chest tight, but he didn't push it away. Instead, he let himself feel it. The sadness, the love, the gratitude for all those meals she had made. He let those feelings flow through his hands as he prepared the ingredients. Jaiwin noticed. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," Teo said. "I'm just thinking about my mom, about the soup she used to make." He started building the base of his dish. First, he needed broth. He couldn't use the soli vegetables for this because he didn't have enough. Instead, he used herb vegetables he knew well. Onions, garlic, ginger. He roasted them first until they were caramelized and sweet. The smell filled the kitchen, rich and warm. Jaiwin's stomach growled. "Sorry," she said. "I didn't eat dinner." "Make yourself something," Teo offered. "This is going to take a while." While the vegetables roasted, Tejo prepared the soli ingredients. He cut them carefully, studying how they behaved. Some were crisp like carrots. Others were soft like mushrooms. The one with shimmering leaves was tender and delicate. He decided to add that one last, so it wouldn't overcook. He added the roasted vegetables to water and let them simmer. The broth would take at least an hour to develop proper flavor. While he waited, he prepared other components. Tejo remembered his mother adding a special herb to her soup. It was called perilla. She had brought seeds from Korea and grew them in pots on their apartment balcony. The leaves had a unique flavor, slightly minty and licorice-like. After she died, Tejo had kept her plant alive, taking cuttings and preserving leaves. He had some dried perilla in his storage. He hadn't used it in years. It was too precious, too connected to memories he wasn't ready to face. But tonight, it felt right. Sarah needed more than food. She needed to feel connected to something real and meaningful. Tejo got the container from the back of his storage cabinet. Inside were dried leaves, still fragrant after all these years. He held the container for a moment, remembering his mother's hands carefully plucking leaves from the plant. "Thank you, Mom," he whispered. "Help me help them." Jaiwin was eating a simple rice bowl, but she stopped when she saw Tejo's face. "That must be important." "It was my mother's," Tejo said. "She would have wanted me to use it for something like this." He added a few leaves to the simmering broth. The aroma changed immediately, becoming more complex, more alive. The hours passed. Tejo worked steadily, tasting and adjusting. He added the soli vegetables one by one, each at the right time to preserve its unique character. The crisp ones went in earlier, the delicate ones near the end. He made the soup slightly thicker than normal, using a small amount of rice flour. Jaiwin's research said soli preferred foods with more body. Too thin, and they couldn't taste it properly through their scales. Around 3 in the morning, Jaiwin had fallen asleep at one of the tables, her head resting on her folded arms. Tejo kept working. This wasn't just cooking anymore. It felt like meditation, like prayer. He thought about Sarah lying in that nest, too weak to move. He thought about Pip's desperate eyes. He thought about all the soli in that hidden colony, refugees far from home, slowly fading because they couldn't connect to anything in their new world. Tejo stirred the soup slowly, putting all those thoughts into it. His care for these strangers who had asked for help, his memory of his mother, his understanding of what it meant to lose everything familiar, his hope that this dish could build a bridge between their world and his. The soup began to glow very faintly in the dim kitchen light. At first, Teo thought he was imagining it, but when he stepped back, he could still see it. A soft, warm light coming from the pot. "Jaiwin," he called. "Jaiwin, wake up." She jerked awake, confused. "What? Is it ready?" "Look at this." Jaiwin walked over and stared at the pot. "Is it glowing?" "I think so." "Very slightly." Jaiwin grabbed her data pad and scanned the pot with its sensors. Her eyes widened. "Tejo, it's emitting a specific wavelength of light. Very low level, but it's there. It's in a spectrum that soli can see, but humans barely can." "The essence bond," Tejo breathed. "It's real." They both stared at the pot in wonder. Whatever Tejo had done, Whatever emotion and care he put into the cooking, it had created something measurable, something real. A sound at the door made them both jump. Standing in the doorway was a Soli, one of the young ones who had helped carry the vegetables. Its scales were dark with urgency. "Please," the dragon said. "Sarah is worse. She is fading. Elder Dehun says if you have food ready, bring it now." Teo's heart clenched. He looked at the soup. It needed maybe 10 more minutes to be perfect. But Sarah might not have 10 minutes. "It's ready enough," he decided. He turned off the heat and carefully ladled the soup into a large covered container designed to keep things hot. Jaiwin grabbed her jacket. "Let's go." The young Soli led them through the corridors at a faster pace than before. Teho carried the container carefully, making sure not to spill any. Inside, he could feel the warmth. It felt alive in his hands. They reached the colony entrance. This time, the door was already open. Dehun was waiting. "Hurry," the elder said. She had stopped breathing properly. They rushed through the colony. Other Soli moved aside, their scales showing dark, worried colors. Everyone knew what was happening. They all watched as the humans passed, carrying their last hope. Pip stood outside her mother's dwelling, scales completely black. When she saw Teho, a flicker of lighter color appeared. Hope, maybe, or just desperation. Teho entered the dwelling. Sarah looked worse than before. Her scales were completely gray now, almost white. Her breathing was shallow and irregular. Her eyes were closed. Dehun was already inside, along with 2 other elder Soli. They had been keeping vigil. "I brought soup," Teho said. He knelt beside Sarah and opened the container. Steam rose from it, carrying the rich aroma through the small space. The faint glow was more visible in the dim dwelling. Sarah's eyes opened slightly at the smell. Just a crack, but it was something. "Sarah," Teho said softly, "my name is Teho. I'm a chef. Your daughter Pip came to me for help. I've made you something special. Something I hope you'll try." He carefully filled a small bowl and held it near her snout. The steam drifted across her face. Sarah's nostrils flared slightly, taking in the scent. "This soup carries something important." Teho continued speaking gently. "It carries memory. It carries love. My mother taught me to cook with care, and I've put that care into every ingredient. I've used vegetables your people grew. I've added herbs my mother treasured. I've spent hours making this, thinking about you, hoping you would eat." Sarah's eyes opened a little more. She was listening. Teho held the bowl steady near Sarah's face. The steam continued to rise, carrying the scent through the dwelling. He could see her nostrils moving, taking in the smell. Her eyes, though still dull, were open now and focused on the bowl. "I know you're tired," Teho said softly. "I know it feels easier to just stop, but your daughter needs you. Pip brought me vegetables and begged me to help. She's been so brave." At the mention of Pip's name, Sarah's eyes shifted. She looked past Teho to where Pip stood in the doorway. The little dragon scales were flickering between black and dark blue, unable to settle on one emotion. "Mother," Pip whispered, "please try. Please." Sarah made a small sound like a sigh. Slowly, painfully slowly, she lifted her head slightly from a nest. It seemed to take all her strength just to do that much. Teho brought the bowl closer. "Just one taste. That's all I ask. If you don't like it, you can stop." He held a spoon with some broth. Very carefully, he brought it to Sarah's mouth. Her lips parted slightly. Teho tipped the spoon, letting a small amount of liquid flow into her mouth. For a moment, nothing happened. Sarah's eyes closed. Teho held his breath. Jaiwin stood frozen near the entrance. Dehun and the other elders watched without moving. The entire dwelling seemed to hold its breath. Then Sarah's eyes opened wide. Her scales, which had been dull gray and white, flickered. A tiny spot of color appeared near her neck. Blue, then green, then a soft gold. The color spread slowly, like ink dropped into water, moving across her scales. Sarah's breathing changed. It became deeper, stronger. She lifted her head higher, looking at the bowl with new focus. "More," she said. Her voice was weak but clear. "More, please." Teho's hand shook slightly as he gave her another spoonful. This time Sarah took it eagerly. The colors on her scales brightened, spreading further across her body. They began to swirl and mix, creating patterns that shifted and changed. Pip made a sound between a cry and a laugh. Her own scales exploded into bright rainbow colors. She rushed to her mother's side, pressing close. Teho continued feeding Sarah, one careful spoonful at a time. He didn't rush. Between each spoonful, he talked to her. "My mother used to make soup like this when I was sick," he said. "She would sit by my bed and feed me, just like this. She said that food made with love could heal anything." Sarah's eyes focused on his face. She was really looking at him now, seeing him as a person. "Your mother," she said between spoonfuls. "She taught you well." "She did," Teho agreed. "She died 5 years ago. I miss her every day." "I am sorry," Sarah said. Her scales showed deep purple mixed with soft blue. Sadness and sympathy. Losing a mother is hard, for any species. "Yes," Teho said. "That's why I couldn't say no to Pip. I understood what she was feeling." Sarah looked at her daughter. "You were brave, little one. You went to find help all alone." Pip's scales turned bright pink with pride. "I was scared, but Elder Dehun said humans might help. So I watched the restaurant for many days. I saw this chef being kind to everyone. I thought maybe he would be kind to us too." "You chose well," Sarah said. She took another spoonful of soup. With each one, she seemed to grow stronger. The colors in her scales became more vibrant. Her movements became less shaky. Dehun stepped forward. His own scales were showing bright yellows and golds. "Joy, this is remarkable. I have never seen essence bonds so strong from prepared food. Your skill is exceptional, Chef Teho." "I just cooked with care," Teho said. But inside he felt proud and relieved. It was working. Sarah was truly getting better. Jaiwan wiped her eyes. She was crying, though she tried to hide it. "I didn't think it would really work," she admitted. "I'm sorry I doubted you." "You were being practical," Teho said. "That's good. We need practical people." The bowl was half empty now. Sarah sat up fully in her nest. Her scales were no longer gray at all. They showed beautiful blues and greens, with streaks of gold and purple. She looked like a living jewel, shimmering in the light. "I can feel it," Sarah said. "Not just the taste. I can feel the emotion you put into this. Your love for your mother. Your care for strangers. Your hope. It flows through the food like music, like art." "That's beautiful," Teho said. "I've never thought of cooking that way." "All creation is art," Sarah told him. "When you make something with true feeling, it becomes more than its parts. That is what essence bonds are. That is what we lost when we left our world. But you—" She looked at the bowl, then back at Teho. "You have given it back to us." A sound came from outside the dwelling. More soli were gathering, drawn by the news that Sarah was eating. Teho could hear excited chirps and whistles. Through the doorway, he saw scales flashing bright colors. Hope spreading through the colony like wildfire. Another soli entered, this one wearing what looked like a security uniform from the station. "I am sorry to interrupt," the dragon said, "but there is a station officer outside. He detected unusual movement in this sector and came to investigate." Dehun's scales flickered with worry. "The station does not know we live here. We have been hiding. If they find us—" "I'll talk to him," Jaiwan said quickly. She had worked with station security before. "Maybe I can explain." She left the dwelling. Teho could hear voices outside, but couldn't make out words. He focused on Sarah, giving her the last of the soup from the bowl. She drank it gratefully. "How do you feel?" Teho asked. Sarah stretched her wings for the first time since he had arrived. They unfolded gracefully, showing membranes that shimmered with color. "I feel alive. For the first time in months, I truly feel alive. Thank you is not enough, but thank you." Pip climbed onto her mother's back, chirping happily. Sarah's scales rippled with warm colors, responding to her daughter's joy. Jaiwan returned, and with her came a man in station security uniform. He was tall with a serious face. His name tag read Officer Hyunwoo. He looked around the dwelling, taking in the scene. The sick dragon who was now clearly recovering. The small dragon child. The human chef holding an empty soup bowl. "This is a restricted section," Hyunwoo said. His voice was stern but not angry. "These areas are off limits. Can someone explain what's happening here?" Dae-hoon stepped forward. "Officer, please. Let me explain. We are Soli refugees. We arrived 3 years ago. The station gave us housing, but the food synthesizers were making us sick. We didn't want to be trouble, so we found this abandoned section and grew our own food. We have been living here quietly, bothering no one." Hyunwoo frowned. "Why didn't you report the problem with the synthesizers? The station has nutritionists who could have helped." "We tried," Dae-hoon said. "The doctors said there was nothing wrong with the food. They said the problem was in our minds. We were embarrassed. We thought maybe they were right. Maybe we were just being difficult." Hyunwoo looked at Sarah, but she was dying. "Yes," Dae-hoon admitted. 3 others have died already. Sarah would have been the 4th if this human chef had not helped. Hyunwoo turned to Taeho. "What did you do?" Taeho stood up, still holding the bowl. "I made soup with ingredients the Soli grew themselves and some of my own. I cooked it with care. That's all. That's all." Hyunwoo looked skeptical. "You expect me to believe soup cured a dying alien?" "Not cured," Taeho corrected. "Nourished. There's a difference. The Soli need food that carries emotional connection. They're not just being picky. It's actually how their biology works." Jaiwin pulled up her datapad. "I have research here that supports this. Soli process food through multiple senses, including emotional ones. Standard synthesized food doesn't provide what they need." Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. He looked at Sarah again, at her bright scales and clear eyes. Then he looked at Pip, who was watching him nervously. Finally, he sighed. "I should report this. You're living in an unauthorized area." "But—" He paused. "I saw what she looked like when I first came in, and I see what she looks like now. Something happened here. Something important. Will you let them stay?" Taeho asked. Hyunwoo rubbed his face tiredly. "I need to talk to my supervisor, but I'm going to recommend that we find a proper solution. One that doesn't involve Soli hiding in abandoned sections, dying in secret." "Thank you," Dae-hoon said. His scales showed cautious hope. Light green mixed with yellow. "Don't thank me yet," Hyunwoo warned, but his expression had softened. 3 weeks had passed since that night in the hidden colony. Taeho stood in his kitchen, chopping vegetables while Pip watched from a stool beside him. The little dragon scales were bright green with concentration as she tried to copy his knife movements with her small claws. "Like this?" Pip asked, carefully cutting a carrot into thin slices. "Perfect," Taeho said. "You're getting really good at this." The restaurant was different now. After Officer Hyunwoo reported what he had found, things had changed quickly. Station Administrator Yunji had called a meeting with Taeho, Dae-hoon, and several other officials. At first, some officials were angry about the unauthorized colony, but Hyunwoo had shown them his report, including medical scans of Sarah before and after eating Taeho's soup. The evidence was clear. The Soli weren't being difficult or imagining things. They genuinely needed food prepared with emotional care to survive. The synthesizers couldn't provide that. Yunji had listened to everyone speak. Then she made a decision. The Soli would be moved from the abandoned section to proper housing in the main residential areas, and Taeho's restaurant would become part of a trial program to provide proper meals for them. Now, every few days, Taeho prepared special dishes for the Soli colony. He taught Jaiwin and some volunteers how to cook with the same care and intention. The colony was recovering. Scales that had been dull were bright again. Soli who had been weak were strong. The door chimed. Sarah entered, carrying a wrapped package. She was completely healthy now, her scales showing beautiful patterns of blue, green, and gold. Behind her came Dae-hoon and several other Soli. "Good morning, Chef Taeho," Sarah said. Her standard Galactic had improved greatly in the past weeks. "Good morning," Taeho replied. "What brings you here so early?" We have something for you, Sarah said. She placed the package on the counter and carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a sculpture made of crystal. It caught the light and threw rainbows across the kitchen walls. The sculpture showed a human figure kneeling beside a small dragon, offering a bowl. The detail was incredible. Tejo could even see the steam rising from the bowl, captured somehow in solid crystal. This is beautiful. Tejo breathed. Did you make this? Yes, Sarah said. Her scales rippled with warm colors. It is my first piece since recovering. I wanted it to be for you, to say thank you. I don't know what to say, Tejo said. He touched the crystal gently. It was warm under his fingers. Say you will accept it, Sarah told him. You gave me back my life. This is small in comparison. Pip hopped off her stool and went to stand beside her mother. Do you like it? Mother worked very hard. I love it, Tejo said honestly. I'll put it where everyone can see it. Jaiwin came out from the back room. Oh, wow, that's gorgeous. She helped Tejo place the sculpture on a shelf where light from a window would hit it perfectly. Daehun stepped forward. We have more news. Administrator Yunji has approved an expansion of the program. Other restaurants on the station are being trained in essence bond cooking, and we have heard from other stations that have Soli refugees. They are asking for help. That's wonderful, Jaiwin said. This could help Soli everywhere. It is more than that, Daehun continued. Other refugee species are coming forward. They have been having similar problems. Not exactly like ours, but they too need food prepared with care rather than synthesized. Your work has opened eyes across the station. Tejo felt overwhelmed. I just made soup. I didn't think it would lead to all this. You did more than make soup, Sarah said. You saw someone in need, and you helped, without asking for payment, without worrying about rules. You just acted with kindness. That is rare. That is special. The door chimed again. Officer Hyunwoo entered, looking tired but pleased. Good timing. I have an update from the administration. Everyone turned to listen. The council has voted to create permanent programs for cultural food preparation, Hyunwoo said. They're calling it the Essence Food Initiative. Restaurants across the station can apply to participate. They'll receive training and funding to prepare traditional, hand-cooked meals for species that need them. What changed their minds? Tejo asked. 3 weeks ago, they were angry about unauthorized colonies. Hyunwoo smiled slightly. I showed them the numbers. Medical visits for Soli have dropped by 70%. Mental health reports show dramatic improvements. And 3 other species have reported better health since starting similar programs. The council can't argue with results. Pip's scales turned bright yellow with excitement. Does this mean we don't have to hide anymore? You never have to hide again, Hyunwoo promised. In fact, Administrator Yunji wants to meet with your colony leaders about creating a proper community center, somewhere you can gather, share your culture, teach others about the Soli. Daehun's scales showed deep gratitude. Purple and gold swirled together. This is more than we hoped for. We came to this station as refugees, expecting to slowly fade away. Now we have hope. We have a future. You have more than that, Hyunwoo said. You have a voice. Other species are listening now. They want to understand. They want to help. Over the next hour, more people arrived at the restaurant. Some were curious station residents who had heard about the Soli. Others were volunteers who wanted to learn how to cook with essence bonds. A reporter from the station news service came to interview Tejo. Through it all, Pip stayed close to Tejo, helping where she could. The little dragon had become his unofficial assistant. She was learning to cook, translating between humans and Soli, and making everyone smile with her enthusiastic energy. During a quiet moment, Sarah pulled Tejo aside. I need to tell you something, she said. When I was sick, when I had stopped eating, I had given up. I was ready to let go. But then I tasted your soup, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. What was that? Tejo asked. Home, Sarah said simply. Not my old home, not the planet we lost, but the feeling of home, safety, love, belonging. Your soup carried all of that. It reminded me that home isn't a place. It's a feeling, And that feeling could be found anywhere, even on a space station far from where we started. Tejo felt his eyes getting wet. My mother used to say something similar. She said home is wherever people care about you. Your mother was wise, Sarah said, and she raised a good son. The day continued with its busy rhythm. Tejo cooked while teaching others. Jai would manage the crowds with her usual efficiency. Pip helped wherever small claws could reach. The Soli visitors shared stories about their culture, their lost world, and their hopes for the future. As evening approached, the restaurant began to empty. Tejo stood at his prep counter, cleaning up. He looked at Sarah's crystal sculpture, still throwing rainbows across the walls. He thought about everything that had happened since Pip scratched at his back door with a basket of vegetables. Jaiwin came to stand beside him. You did a good thing, she said. Not just for the Soli. For everyone. You reminded people what matters. What's that? Tejo asked. Caring, Jaiwin said. Actually caring about others. Not just following rules or doing what's efficient. Actually taking time to see someone's pain and doing something about it. Pip climbed onto the counter, scales glowing softly in the evening light. Chef Tejo, will you teach me more tomorrow? Of course, Tejo said. We'll make something special. With essence bonds? Pip asked. With essence bonds, Tejo confirmed. The most important ingredient in any recipe. That night, after everyone had left and the restaurant was clean, Tejo sat alone for a moment. He looked at the crystal sculpture, at the image of himself offering a bowl to Pip. He thought about his mother, about how proud she would be. I get it now, Mom, he said quietly to the empty room. You always said cooking was about more than food. It's about connection. It's about showing people they matter. I understand now. The crystal caught the last light of evening and threw a rainbow across his face. Somewhere in the station, in their new proper homes, the Soli were settling in for the night. Sarah was probably working on a new sculpture. Daehoon was planning tomorrow's community activities. Pip was likely drawing pictures of everything she had learned. They were alive. They were thriving. They had hope. And it had all started with one small dragon brave enough to ask for help and one human chef kind enough to say yes. Tejo smiled, turned off the lights, and locked up the restaurant. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new people to feed, new connections to make. But tonight, he felt at peace. He had found his purpose. Not just to cook, but to care. To use his skills to build bridges between different worlds, different species, different lives. In the end, that was what humanity brought to the galaxy. Not weapons or technology, though those had their place. What humans brought was the simple, powerful act of caring about strangers, of seeing someone in pain and choosing to help, of putting love into the smallest actions and trusting that it mattered. It did matter. It always had, and it always would. The story of the little dragon who brought vegetables to a human chef will be told across the station for years to come. It would inspire others to act with kindness. It would remind people that sometimes the greatest changes come from the simplest gestures. But for Tejo, it was never about being remembered. It was about the moment Sarah's scales first showed color, about Pip's grateful eyes, about creating something that nourished more than bodies. It was about cooking with essence bonds, about making food that carried love, and that Tejo knew was enough.